Welcome back, you guys. Today we are doing something a little different and we are making this beautiful cookies and cream cake. So I've incorporated Oreos into almost every aspect of this cake, and I've added crushed Oreos into my cake layers. I've also added a half a cup of super finely crushed Oreos into my black cocoa frosting, and that's what I'm using to fill this cake. I'm also adding some roughly chopped Oreos on top of this, and then of course adding a dark chocolate ganache drizzle. I've placed my ganache into a squirt bottle just to make it easier to add on top of those Oreos. So to make this cake, I'm using 3 7-inch cake rounds, and I've leveled these using a serrated knife. I'm repeating this process with my remaining cake layers, and whenever I add on my top cake layer, I like to flip it upside down, and this makes it easier to get nice sharp corners when you're frosting your cake. Once all my layers were stacked, I added on some more of the black cocoa buttercream on top of the cake, and slowly worked it down the sides. Once the cake was fully coated, I made my initial pass to smooth it with my large offset spatula, and I then used a bench scraper to get it really nice and smooth. I then chilled the cake in the freezer for about 10 minutes until the buttercream was nice and firm to the touch. I used vanilla frosting for my second coat, and I thought this would create a really fun contrast between the outside finished look of the cake and the interior. So I really love doing 2 different colors of frosting like this, but when you are covering up a darker crumb coat with a lighter color of buttercream, you have to make sure that you add on a really thick second layer so that none of the darker crumb coat peeks through. If you guys want to see a full tutorial on how to frost a cake with perfectly smooth sides, click the link in the upper right corner. So next comes the really fun part. I am covering our second layer of frosting with some dark chocolate ganache. So once I've coated it with a thin layer, I'm using my large offset spatula to create lines around the cake. So I'm holding my spatula in the same place, and then I'm just spinning the cake around to create these horizontal lines. I'm not applying a lot of pressure, I'm just adding enough to carefully scrape away a little bit of that ganache. So I'm so obsessed with the contrast that this creates between the lines of the dark chocolate ganache and that white buttercream. I think it is so beautiful and kind of rustic looking. So to cover the top, I just dragged a little bit of the ganache from the top edge into the center to create some fun square marks. And I was actually pretty torn about how to decorate the top of this cake, but I really wanted to keep it simple and elegant. So I ended up just drizzling some ganache kind of in a spiral pattern around the top of the cake. So this is the first time I've ever done anything like this, and my first time I went around I was pretty slow and cautious, but the second time I went a little bit faster and had a bit more fun with it. If you wanted a more traditional looking cake, you could definitely pipe some swirls around the top as well, but this is a really fun way to kind of jazz up a cake and to go for a little bit of a different look. Since this is a cookies and cream cake, I decided to add some crushed Oreos around the base of the cake. And that is the finishing touch on this cookies and cream cake. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to click the like and subscribe buttons below. And also let me know what you think of this kind of alternative cake design.